Hi and welcome. Today we're talking about what makes a good story, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about dialogue writing, suspense writing and other writing techniques to make your stories more captivating. The show today is brought to you by the Structure Success video training, which helps you come up with a rough outline, a framework for your own life story writing. And that could be an autobiography, it could be a memoir, a biography or some other project. If you are new here, welcome. It's where we learn to write life stories for family and friends, so unique memories can live on. And I'd be really happy if you could follow, subscribe and like the show. So I'm often telling stories at home, telling them to my husband, and sometimes I get carried away. He's giving me this signal, hurry up, get to the point. And we're all guilty of this. We tell a story, we give far too much, not important information, background detail, and people are just waiting for you to come on, get on with it, get to the point. And we can do this with our life story writing as well. And we turn off our readers. They're not going to complete reading your project. And so today I'm going to I've got some ideas for you to use to write into your book so that it's more captivating and engaging for your readers. But firstly, I just want to cover what I think is a really good story. So things you need to keep in mind before you use these techniques. The first one being to have it clear why you're writing. Why are you setting out on this project in the first place? The second is, who are you writing for? You've really got to know your audience so you can tailor your writing to them. The third thing is to know your guiding messages. Why are you writing? What do you hope to convey? Is a broad arching idea, and you could have one or two ideas, and sometimes people refer to these as themes. It doesn't matter if you don't have them up front, but it is really helpful if you do. Often you'll discover a major one or more as you're writing, so don't get too stressed out about that. But have these things clear in your mind if you can, especially why you're writing, who you're writing and your guiding messages. If you have a strong foundation for these, you're going to create a good story. So on to the first technique I want to share with you today, and that is dialogue writing. Now, dialogue is what people say, and it's a great technique to break up the flow of copy in your project. So you're going to give your readers a bit of a different type of flow. You're going to break it up. And this is great because with dialogue, you're getting the point of view of a character or someone who's speaking, giving quotes in your project, and you get to know their point of view, of course, but you get to see how they interact with others and also what they're thinking. So this is really valuable to your reader. So you don't need to do a lot of dialogue. You could just use a few key sentences as part of a bigger anecdote. And I get people saying to me, but I can't remember all that way back in time. I can't remember exactly what was said. And that's fine. Just try and remember as much as you can and keep it as truthful as what you think was said. So the main idea here is to try and recreate the spirit of the conversation and even use phrases that you think or you know that character used. So it can be as truthful as possible this far into the future. So that was number one, dialogue writing. The second technique is to use detail. Now, detail is great, especially for describing settings and characters. This will really help your reader stay engaged, and it's going to create a really good story. Now, it doesn't have to be long-winded, fancy, airy-fairy descriptions. I'm talking just a few key sentences again. So, for example, perhaps you're describing the house where you grew up in. You're not going to go airy-fairy on me. You're not going to sort of describe the paddock across the street, where they had tall grasses that blew in the wind and they changed colour. And oh yes, it was very, very long descriptions and that are going to bore your reader and you're going to make them turn off and stop reading. No, instead you could do something like this. Simply describe the facade of your house. Take your readers on a bit of a tour of the house. What rooms were there? What was the garden like? Was there anything unusual? Give some highlights of the house. Also talk about your neighbours or the greater neighbourhood. These things are going to really get your readers engaged. So remember to use some detail, especially for settings and character. That brings me to the third point, or the third technique I have for you today, and that is suspense. Now, we've all encountered this, especially in movies. When we watch a movie, there's always the little details, the breadcrumb of suspense details that gets sprinkled through the scenes of the movie, and it all comes together in the end. And this is something we can do with our writing projects. So, for example, you might write, in a first draft, you might have written, in year one, I met a young girl called Betty, and she had long plaits, and she became the love of my life, and we were married for 50 glorious years. Something like this, say. But you've given the whole picture away here. You've given the big story away to your reader. They know what's going on now. But instead, you could have written just a little suspense sentence there. You could have said, in year one, I met this tall girl called Betty. She had the long plaits with the blue ribbons on the end. Then you leave that for a bit, and you might bring Betty in again, related to another anecdote, maybe in another chapter, and you can keep doing this, okay? So eventually your reader's going to be like, who's this Betty girl? Why are we hearing so much about her? What's going to happen here? And you've got that suspense effect. So use those suspense breadcrumbs to keep your reader engaged, to keep them reading along your good story journey. So there you have it. That's 3 core ideas or 3 core techniques that I'd love for you to try to keep your readers more captivated with your story, i.e. it's not going to be a boring story, this is going to be a good story. The things we talked about was 1, having that strong foundation of knowing who you're writing for, why you're writing, and if you've got any themes, that's fantastic. The techniques then you can start to use would be 1, use some dialogue. 2, use some detail for your settings and your characters. And thirdly, think about suspense. Don't give everything all away at the beginning. If you want to know more about this topic, this show is just a small section of a larger article I've got over at my website, and you can go to foreveryoungautobiographies.com/good-story. And while you're here or while you're there, please leave me a comment. Is there a technique that you're going to try, or have you got something else you'd like to share? Please leave me a comment or send me an email anytime by going to foreveryoungautobiographies.com/contact. At the top of the show, I mentioned the Structure Success video training, and this gives you a rough outline for your projects. You come up with the chapters by using some exercises to come up with these ideas and events. Highly recommend you download that. You can go to foreveryoungautobiographies.com/structure success sign up. I'll have all the links for you down below. I'll be back again soon with another topic, so until then, happy writing.